Today, Iran calls America its greatest enemy. They chant death to America in government rallies, fund terror groups, and race toward nuclear weapons. But what if I told you they used to be friends, allies even? America once helped Iran modernize. Iran once trusted the U.S. to protect its future, but then everything collapsed. So what went wrong? A secret CIA coup that toppled Iran's democracy, a brutal revolution that stunned the world, and decades of proxy wars, backstabbing, drone strikes, and dead generals. This isn't just foreign policy. This is one of the deepest rivalries on Earth, built on betrayal, fear, power, and pride. And it's not history. It's still happening right now. This is the story of why the USA and Iran hate each other, and why the next chapter might be the most dangerous yet. In the 1950s, Iran was one of America's closest friends in the Middle East. But this friendship wasn't just about smiles and handshakes. It was about power. Iran had something America wanted: oil. Lots of it. And with the Soviet Union nearby, Iran was also a key piece on the chessboard of global politics. So the U.S. backed Iran's king, the Shah, who promised to modernize the country. America helped build roads, schools, and businesses, but behind the scenes, it was about keeping the oil flowing and keeping the Soviets out. But while the Shah welcomed America, many ordinary Iranians didn't. To them, the U.S. wasn't helping, it was controlling. American companies took the oil, American culture flooded their cities, and American spies operated in their streets. To many Iranians, it felt like their country was being sold off to a foreign power. By the early 1950s, America's relationship with Iran hit a breaking point, and it all came down to oil and power. Iran's Prime Minister, Mohammad Mossadegh, shocked the world when he nationalized Iran's oil. For years, British and American companies had been making massive profits from Iran's oil fields, while ordinary Iranians stayed poor. Mossadegh wanted to change that. He wanted the money from Iran's oil to help Iran's people, not to fill foreign bank accounts. But in Washington and London, this was a nightmare. Billions of dollars were at stake. If Iran got away with this, other countries might follow. For America and Britain, it wasn't just about one country's oil, it was about losing control of the global system. So they launched Project Ajax, a secret CIA operation to take Mossadegh down. American and British intelligence agents paid off Iranian politicians, spread fake news, and even hired gangs to create chaos in the streets. The goal was simple: turn the people against Mossadegh and make it look like the Shah was the hero. And it worked. In 1953, Mossadegh was overthrown, the Shah returned to power, and Western companies took back control of Iran's oil. Officially, America said it was about fighting communism, but behind closed doors, it was about oil, profits, and control. For many Iranians, this was the moment they stopped trusting America. The U.S. didn't protect their freedom, it protected its own wallet. The 1979 Iranian Revolution wasn't just a random uprising, it was a storm built over decades, fueled by anger, betrayal, and one man's vision. After America helped overthrow Iran's elected leader in 1953, it propped up the Shah, a king who lived in luxury while most Iranians stayed poor. His secret police, Savak, ruled by fear, silencing anyone who stood against him. But the Shah wasn't Iran's only voice. In the background, one man was speaking directly to the people's pain: Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. The Shah exiled Khomeini to Iraq in the 1960s, hoping to silence him. It backfired. From exile, Khomeini launched a movement. His fiery speeches, recorded on cassette tapes, were smuggled into Iran and played in mosques and markets. He spoke their truth. Your oil is stolen. Your leaders are American puppets. Your culture is being destroyed by the West. But Khomeini offered something more than just resistance. He promised a new system, a government based on Islam, Sharia law, no more foreign influence, no more Western values, a pure Islamic government that would finally give power to the people. For millions of religious Iranians, this was the answer they had been waiting for. While some wanted democracy, many believed that only Islamic law could truly clean up the corruption. By the late 1970s, the streets of Iran were on fire. Protesters risked their lives chanting, "Death to the Shah." And those who wanted revenge went further, "Death to America." In 1979, it all came crashing down. The Shah fled, Khomeini returned, and Iran was reborn, not as a Western ally, but as an Islamic theocracy. Then came the final humiliation for America. Iranian students stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, capturing 52 Americans. For 444 days, those hostages sat in fear. While outside, crowds shouted the same words every single day: "Death to America." But this wasn't just wild anger. It was revenge. Revenge for stolen oil, stolen democracy, and years of foreign control. Just when things couldn't get worse, another war broke out. And this time, it wasn't a secret CIA plot. It was a full-blown invasion. In 1980, Iraq's dictator, Saddam Hussein, saw his chance. Iran was weak after the revolution, revolution, its army in chaos. Saddam thought he could take advantage, grab land, and crush the new Islamic Republic before it got too powerful. So he invaded Iran. But here's where things get complicated. America didn't love Saddam, far from it. Saddam was brutal, unpredictable, and dangerous. But to Washington, he was useful. Why? Because now the U.S. saw Iran as the bigger threat. The embassy hostage crisis had humiliated America. Khomeini was calling for Islamic revolutions across the Middle East. And the last thing the U.S. wanted was Iran becoming a superpower in the region. So Washington made a cold calculation. Support Saddam, not because he was good, but because he was the lesser evil. The U.S. gave money, intelligence, and even weapons to Iraq, not to help Iraq win glory, but to make sure Iran lost. But Iran didn't back down. Instead of just defending itself, Iran pushed the war into Iraqi territory, determined to crush Saddam and spread their revolution even further. The war dragged on for 8 bloody years. By the end, millions were dead or wounded, and the whole region was in flames. And who did Iran blame for all of it? America. First they stole our oil, then our democracy. Now they're sending weapons to kill our people. From Iran's point of view, it was all part of the same story. Foreign powers using Iran as a battlefield to protect their own profits and power. By the early 2000s, Iran's strategy had changed. It wasn't just about speeches or slogans anymore. It was about action. Iran began enriching uranium, fuel that can be used for nuclear energy or nuclear weapons. Western intelligence agencies watched closely. Tehran claimed it was peaceful, but the world had its doubts. The timing, the secrecy, the missile testing, it all raised red flags. But Iran wasn't just working in labs, it was building networks across the region. It backed Hezbollah in Lebanon, one of the most powerful armed groups in the Middle East. It sent weapons and training to the Houthis in Yemen. It funded militias in Iraq and supported fighters in Syria, all aimed at weakening American influence and attacking U.S. allies like Israel and Saudi Arabia. And these weren't just local groups. They had real firepower. Missiles, drones, ambushes. And behind much of it, Iranian money, training, and planning. Iran didn't just chant death to America. It started funding the people who could deliver it. For the U.S., this wasn't just politics. It was a growing threat. Iran was no longer working in the shadows. It was making bold moves across borders, challenging American power in the region and pushing closer to the nuclear edge. In 2015, the Obama administration took a different approach. Diplomacy. The idea was simple. Iran would pause its uranium enrichment, allow inspections, and in return, some economic sanctions would be lifted. The goal? Slow down Iran's nuclear program without going to war. On paper, the Iran nuclear deal looked like progress, but behind the scenes, problems began to surface. Iran refused access to key military sites. It continued to test ballistic missiles, the kind that could eventually carry a nuclear warhead. U.S. intelligence raised concerns that Iran wasn't fully transparent, and critics warned that the deal had too many loopholes. Then in 2018, President Donald Trump pulled the U.S. out, calling it a bad deal that only delayed the problem instead of solving it. Supporters of the deal said it bought time. Critics said it gave Iran cash and freedom, while it kept working in the background. You don't negotiate with someone still building rockets behind your back. The trust was gone, and once the U.S. left the deal, Iran ramped things back up. More enrichment, more missile tests, more tension. Qasem Soleimani wasn't just another general. He was the architect behind Iran's shadow war across the Middle East. As the head of the Quds force, he trained and armed militias that attacked U.S. troops in Iraq, helped prop up the Assad regime in Syria, and funneled weapons to Hezbollah. To the West, he was a terrorist with blood on his hands. To Iran, he was a national hero. In January 2020, everything changed. A U.S. drone strike near Baghdad airport took him out. The operation was fast, precise, and final. Washington said it was self-defense, that Soleimani was actively planning more attacks on Americans. Iran was furious. Protests erupted. Leaders vowed revenge. But for many in the U.S., the message was clear. America doesn't start wars, but we end threats. It was a high-stakes gamble, one that escalated tensions, but also took out the man driving much of Iran's regional warfare. For a moment, the world held its breath, but one thing was undeniable. The strike wasn't just about Soleimani, it was about drawing a line. Right now, Iran is closer than ever to the nuclear threshold. Experts say it's just weeks, maybe days, away from having enough enriched uranium to build a bomb. And it's not just about nukes. Iran is still funding terror groups, from Hezbollah in Lebanon to Hamas in Gaza to proxy militias in Iraq and Syria. Its fingerprints show up wherever U.S. interests or allies are under attack. Israel remains target number one. Iranian leaders call for its destruction openly while continuing to test missiles capable of reaching it. And inside Iran, at official government rallies, the chants haven't stopped. Death to America, not from the streets, from the stage, from podiums, from people in power. Meanwhile, the U.S. is on high alert, working with Israel, NATO, and Gulf partners to keep Iran in check. Sanctions are in place, naval forces are watching, cyber defenses are up, but it's a game of pressure and patience, and no one knows how long that can last. The world can't afford to look away because Iran isn't backing down. This conflict isn't about hate, it's about caution. For the United States, Iran isn't just another country with a different viewpoint. It's a regime that's built a playbook around destabilizing regions, funding terror, and threatening American lives and allies. It's not personal, it's about protecting peace. For Iran, it's deeper than politics. It's ideological. Its leadership has built an entire narrative around resisting the West, rejecting Israel, and defying American power. These aren't just policies, they're pillars of the regime's identity, and that's what makes peace so difficult. Diplomacy has been tried, so have sanctions, military pressure, back-channel talks, and yet the core problem remains: Iran hasn't changed its behavior. Real peace is always possible, but only if both sides are willing to meet halfway. And right now, only one side keeps escalating. This isn't a grudge, it's a warning. Until Iran stops threatening peace, the world, especially America, can't afford to let its guard down.